Hello children, I'm just back with a new topic. The topic that will be discussed today, that is from chapter number 5, the nature of the colonial rule. This topic has been just recommended by you, so many of you had just recommended this topic, the Ijaradari system of India, as because in my last two videos I had just asked you children that whether I have to upload a video on the Ijaradari system or not, and most of you have just replied that Ijaradari system should be discussed in a great detail. So for that reason I'm just going to discuss the Ijaradari system. Children, in my previous two videos I had just explained about the land revenue or the revenue fixation from the sides of the English East India Company. The first one, that was introduced by Lord Cornwallis in the year of 1793, that came to be known as the permanent settlement. Number 2, I had discussed about the Ratwari settlement of 1820, and last but not the least, it was the Mahalwari settlement of 1833. Now I'm just going to discuss about the Ijaradari system. You must just remember that the Ijaradari system was prevalent at the time, as because the English East India Company, they were every time they were trying to collect the revenue or the taxes from the poor peasants in a high way. Means every time the amount of taxes or the amount of revenue was so high, and that created a biggest problem for the Indian peasants or the farmers to just pay it out to the British government. So for that reason I told you children that since the beginning of the 18th century till the last of the end of the 18th century, that was the era of experiencing the land revenue settlement and the systems. Before introducing the permanent settlement in 1793, you know children, I told you that the governor or the governor general of Bengal or of India, it was Sir Warren Hastings. So Warren Hastings in the year of 1772, just listen me very carefully, in the year of 1772, Warren Hastings had introduced a system, a land revenue system, for what they could just collect the tax or the revenue from the poor peasants in an organized manner, in an organized way. And henceforth in the year of 1772 he had introduced the Ijaradari system. Now let me tell you that what was the Ijaradari system and who are called Ijaradars, which is called Ijara. Ijara, it's a particular post, it's a designation, means not a designation, it's a particular post that can be given to a particular person. And the person to whom this kind of designation will be given, he will be called the Ijaradar. What happened before coming to the English East India Company in our own country? The actual owner of the land, it was the peasants themselves. No problem was there with the peasants, but when the English East India Company and their officers, they had just come here, they had started monopolizing over our Indian economy, they had systematically divided our Indian territories and they had just collected the taxes or the revenues from the poor peasants in a different way. This was absolutely a new system that was introduced by Sir Warren Hastings. He told that now the ownership of the land, it will be taken away from the hands of the peasants and it will be given to some particular persons. The persons who will be able, who are just giving the guarantee that after taking the Ijara of a particular land, they are supposed to just pay the taxes or the revenue in a high price. Suppose what was happened, a particular area or a region was chosen by the English East India Company at the time, and they had just arranged an auction process. When the auction process will be going on, at the time the highest bidder, means it's also called the bidding process in the Indian history. Bidding process means, suppose I think you have just visited the nearby means markets, and where you can see that the bidding process is going on, the auction process is going on. In IPL also the auction process is very common. It's very the auction process sounds very well, isn't it? Means the person who will just give the assurance that he will give the highest amount of taxes to the English East India Company, he will be chosen as an Ijaradar. This was the main fact. So when the auction will be given, so means what was happened in the Ijaradari system, what was the new system of the Ijaradari system. Previously the owner of the land, it was the peasants themselves, and now what was happened, the ownership of the land, it was directly taken from the hands of the poor peasants, and that was given to the hands of the, to whom? Few peoples. And those peoples who were just assigned with the new land revenue system, an auction process will be going on. At the time the highest bidder will get the opportunity and in lieu of cash payment, he can also just pay out his taxes. He can just give away the taxes or the revenue to the English East India Company from the production. Means the peasants, they will now only they will just continue their farming after a very hard toil, after a very hard work, when the production will be just done completely. At the time he will just give the money or the taxes to the Ijaradar. Previously they used to just submit the taxes to the landlords directly, but not, means from now onwards, since 1772, they won't be able to just hand over the taxes or the revenue to the English East India Company. Instead of that, a new post was created, and the name of the post was the Ijaradars. Now the Ijaradars will be responsible for collecting the taxes or the revenue from the poor peasants, and they will submit the taxes or the revenue to the British offices periodically. Now suppose, for instance, I'm saying that the Ijaradari process has been started in Kalyani, at Kalyani. So suppose Mr. Ram, he has just given, he is being just assigned with this land revenue system as because he is the highest bidder. And in which way the bidding process will be going on? Suppose lots of Ijaradars, they have just come over there to just get the Ijaradari system, or we can say that they're just going to take Kalyani city as a rent. Okay, so someone told that 50 rupees. Then someone, means few will be there, they will tell that it will be 60, 70, 80. And suppose when Mr. Ram, he will say that I will just provide 100 rupees taxes, I will just give 100 rupees taxes monthly. At the time the land will be assigned with Mr. Ram, and the Mr. Ram, in this situation, he will be the Ijaradar of Kalyani, and the peoples of Kalyani, they are not supposed to just pay the taxes to the English East India Company directly. Instead they have to pay the taxes to Mr. Ram, as because Mr. Ram is the new Ijaradar of that area. Now what has happened, what was the demerits, what were the drawbacks of this Ijaradari system? I'm just going to tell you that it was land revenue system, or the assignment that was when Mr. Ram was assigned with the land, and it was clearly stated that Ram will just pay 100 rupees to the English East India Company. So for that reason, what was happened, Mr. Ram, he knew it very well that after the completion of 1 month, as because he has to pay 100 rupees to the English East India Company, instead of that he will collect 150 rupees. It means, it's very clear to you children that he is just collecting the money 50 rupees extra. He has taken 50 rupees extra, and he will keep this 50 rupees, that extra 50 rupees inside his pocket. In this way, the poor peasants, they were very much exploited. Previously, obviously the exploitation was going on, but now the exploitation over the peasants, it was just going on, in a different way. What can I say? As because the Ijaradars were there, and they were just doing their job, they held their position, their designation, just like the middlemen. It means there was no middleman in this case previously, but when the English East India Company came, when the Ijaradari system was introduced by Warren Hastings at the time, the middlemen came, and the post holders, they were called the Ijaradars, and the right on a particular land they got, that came to be known as the Ijara. It was a it was a revenue fixation right that was just given, that was assigned to a particular person, a particular Ijaradar who was assigned with a particular land and who was supposed to just pay or to just submit the taxes periodically to the English East India Company. If he fails to give so, at the time his Ijaradari system will be just taken away from his hand. It will be given to another person on the basis of auction. The auction process was very common at the time. Okay, now I will tell you about the terms and conditions of the Ijaradari system. Already I have just discussed that what were the terms and conditions of the Ijaradari system. For next 5 years, the Ijaradar, they will just stick in their position. They will just collect the taxes from the poor peasants. In this way, they will submit the taxes to the British government, and the extra money, what about the extra revenue or the extra taxes, they will just surely keep it inside their pocket. As because the term of this Ijaradari system was only for the 5 years, so that's why there was no good relation or the good bonding made between the poor peasants and the Ijaradar. Ijaradar, every time they had just considered themselves as they were the tax collector or the farmers general. So that's why their responsibility was only to collect the taxes from the poor peasants and submit it to the English East India Company at proper time. They knew it very well that they are only having 5 years term in their hands, so that's why they used to collect the taxes or the revenue at a maximum rate, at a maximum price. They were assigned with a particular land. Suppose for 100 rupees, it could perhaps it could have been possible that he was collecting the taxes in a rate of 150. Sometimes it just went 175, 180. Just for instance, I'm saying that in this way. So in this system also, in the Ijaradari system also, we can see that the poor peasants, they become the worst sufferers, they become the worst affected of this system. And for that reason, in the year of 1777, the Ijaradari system was just converted to another system, and this time the assignment of that particular land, the revenue collection system will be just continuously going in this way. But the term, it was previously for 5 years now this time it will be changed. Instead of 5 years, it will be only 1 year. So instead of the 5-year settlement, the Ijaradari system also can be called the 5 years settlement or Patshala Bondobosto, Poncoshala Bondobosto, just like that in Bengali. Sometimes we just call it. So instead of the 5-year settlement, now 1 year settlement will be done. Means the Ijaradars, they will just get the right to just collect the revenue or the taxes from the poor peasants only for 1 year. After 1 year, the Ijaradari system, it can be just taken away from that particular Ijaradar. It could be handed over to the another one. So it was expected by introducing the 1 year settlement since 1777. It was expected by the English East India Company that the exploitation over the common peasants or the poor peasants, it will be reduced. But nothing was happened, as because after that 10-year settlements also came, as because it was just increased from 1 year settlement. From the term of 1 year, it was just increased to the 10 years, and finally in the year of 1793, when Lord Cornwallis sought to think that now the permanent settlement should be introduced. What was the drawbacks of the 1 year settlement, children? As because the Ijaradars, those Ijaradars who got the Ijaradari of a particular land, they knew it very well that we were only having 1 year term with us, so that's why they started monopolizing. They had started exploiting the poor peasants to just collect the taxes at a very high price, at a very high amount. So that's why what has happened that in a very short span of time, every time they used to collect the taxes in a very high price, but they were absolutely reluctant to just invest their money, to just reinvest their money for the future production. So to just eradicate all these drawbacks and problems from the Ijaradari system and this 1 year settlement, the 10-year settlement was finally introduced, and from 10-year settlement, permanent settlement, 10-year settlements also just got transferred to the permanent settlement in the year of 1793. So this is the fact. I'm just going to repeat all the key elements from our today's topic, that the Ijaradari system was introduced in Bengal by the then governor of India, governor of Bengal, as well as the governor general of India. He was was Warren Hastings in the year of 1772, and the main objective or the aim was that it was just anticipated by the English East India Company in an organized way. They can just collect the taxes or the revenue from the poor peasants, and henceforth they will not take any direct interpretation, direct work to just collect the taxes from the poor peasants. Instead, the middlemen, the Ijaradars, will be there. They will be given the responsibility to collect the taxes or the revenue from the peasants and to submit it to the British officers periodically. So, but finally what was happened, the Ijaradars, as because they knew it very well, that they were having a very short span of time to just collect and to just make them so wealthy. So that's why they used to just extort, they used to just exploit the common peoples, even the poor farmers. And finally what has happened in the year of 1777, the Ijaradari system, or the 5 years settlement. I already have mentioned, children, that the Ijaradari system was also called the 5-year settlement, as because the land revenue settlement, or it was assigned only for the 5 years. So that's why the Ijaradari system was also termed as the 5-year settlement. It got transferred to the 1-year settlement to just eradicate all the problems and the difficulties and the obstructions and the hindrances from this land revenue settlement. And finally, and hopefully finally, when in the year of 1786, when Lord Cornwallis, he came to India, he came to Bengal as the Governor General of India, he saw to think that the permanent settlement should be introduced, and on the recommendation of Lord Cornwallis, the Westminster House or the House of Commons from London, they had just given the recognition to Lord Cornwallis to introduce a new land revenue system, and that came to be that came to be known as the permanent settlement of 1793. So this is the Ijaradari system. Hope, children, you have just understood this very well. If you are having any question, any doubt regarding the Ijaradari system, you may just go to the comment section and write your queries, your doubts. I will surely just clarify your doubts instantly. Okay, till then, I will be just coming with a new video shortly. Till then, stay safe, stay home. Thank you.